Good evening, Australia. Welcome to Psychic TV International Thursday night. I am back and in close-up form because for some reason it won't let me zoom out. So you're just going to get a much closer version of my pretty face. So it's great to have your company here tonight. I have been away the last 2 weeks with just being unwell and life stuff getting in the way. So it's good to finally be back here on a Thursday night. I hope you've been well. Do say hello so I know you are watching. It is just me tonight. We just obviously with the mix up and just things going on. We decided just to do. I basically rather. I mean, it's my show. I decided to do a bit of a solo show. Something I was going to do a few weeks ago with you guys. After Harry, so you might have remembered a few weeks ago, Harry T did interview me for the first time. It was my first interview that I have had on myself. Well, you got to know me a little bit, and if we've had some feedback since that show where some of you have said, "Oh, I'd love to actually get to know you a little bit more in a little bit more detail." So some of the things were missed that some of you wanted to learn a bit more on. So I figured, why not just do a solo show where you can ask me the questions? Hi to Beth. Good to see you as well. As always, good to see you back again. Janet, good to see you as well. And Grace, who's watching from YouTube, good to see you there as well. So do say hello so I know you there. Do share this page if you can as well so we can try and reach as many people as we possibly can. But tonight, you're asking me the questions. So it's getting to know me again, but on a much more personal, deeper level. It's just me. So I'm here to chat about anything that you want to know about my history. So please put your questions. Hi, Liz. Good to see you in the thread as well. So please put your questions in the comments. Production will star the questions, and I will try and get through as many as we can. Always looking sharp and fabulous. This is just how I am in very close form. I'm usually with a bit of a border, but it's okay. Zoomed in. Belle, good to see you. Belle's actually on next week. So definitely all your comments are coming through, which is fantastic. So Belle, you're actually on next week, which is fantastic. So it'd be great to get to know you on a much more deeper level next week. So make sure you all tune in again next Thursday night at 8 p.m. for me interviewing Belle, which will be very exciting. Um, Hi, Jules. Hi, good to see you have missed. I know, I thought you might have missed my face. A few people, it's okay. I'm back. I'm here. So please ask me. So we're not doing psychic readings, just to remind everyone that might be a bit new or confused, but it is get to know me. So if there's something that you wanted to ask, whatever, tonight you're asking me the questions. So yeah, put your questions in the comments that you want to get to know me. This is the night for it. So if there's always something that you've wanted to know more about me, um, anything, ignore the background noise. I've got my window open and it's extremely hot. And my neighbor who owns a motorbike has decided to go for a joyride. So perfect timing. But definitely, definitely post your questions in the comments below, asking me anything. Now, look, it doesn't have to be personal questions in regards to me directly. It can be sort of even spiritual, educational type questions. So if you wanted to get sort of an idea on how I sort of manifest or how I ground or how I cleanse or anything psychically or spiritually in that sense, if you wanted to get my sort of view or opinion on what I do, I'm happy to answer that as well. So definitely throw your questions at me. Otherwise, I'm just going to be trying to waste time here. So please ask questions. Otherwise, like it's going to be a very, very long, boring show. So make sure you definitely do ask your questions. I will try and think of things to talk about, but I think there's some questions coming through as well, which is good. So definitely post your questions. Again, not psychic related questions, but anything that you want to get to know me on or how I do things. Keep it clean. This is a PG show as well. So just keep an idea of the type of questions that you're asking as well. But of course, you can go to psychictvinternational.com and there are psychics available for a reading. Beth, who's in the thread, is actually on a call. So Beth's pin is 9150. She's in the thread, but she's currently busy on a call right now. So that's fantastic. But currently available, we do have Amazing Grace on pin 9888, our UK Psychic Jag on 9160, Judith Sky on pin 9125, Makita on pin 9133, and Nellie Norm Baker on pin 9810. But Beth, who's in the thread, is actually on a call. I'm going to start this one. There you go. Production's already done it for me. Thank you. Anne Marie's in the background. We do appreciate all the help that she does. So yeah, again, no psychic readings tonight, but definitely any questions that you want to get to know me on a personal level. So the whole purpose of me doing this really is, like I said, Harry T did interview me a few weeks ago, which was a fantastic show. It was great. Great response, great feedback, but there was some feedback in regards to people just wanting to know a little bit more about my journey and my history and go into a bit more detail. So that's what tonight's all about. I've set it aside so you can get to know me on a much more deeper personal level that you wouldn't normally get the opportunity to do so. Um, so definitely post those questions and share this page if you can. It's, look, anything with me, if you guys know me or follow me, my neighbor will soon leave. So I think he's heading off now. So if you can hear those noises, they will stop soon. Yeah, okay, cool. Well, I'll see what it feels like there's a few questions coming in. Okay, Liz has asked, how did you start being a psychic and know you had the gift? Good question. I have talked about this a little bit, so I'll go into a little bit more detail. So, for me personally, I didn't really know I had a gift, so to speak, or an ability, or however you would like to call it, until quite later on in life. But looking back, there's always been signs, and there's always been kind of um, not just signs, but just I suppose moments and situations that looking back, I kind of go, oh yeah, that makes sense. I obviously had an ability, but didn't really know that I did because for me it was just normal. It was all that I ever kind of knew and didn't really talk about it publicly or I mean I was young, so a lot of it I didn't quite understand. But for me, everyone had this kind of ability to sense things before they happened. So for me, it was like, okay, well, this is normal, you know. I remember I would have been probably 8 or 7 years old. We lived in um, a suburb in Melbourne that is like an old suburb. It's one of the first settlement type suburbs of Melbourne. And the place that we lived in um, was quite heavily haunted, basically, obviously. It used to be a courthouse and they used to hang people in the backyard. So it was like a lot of the convicts from like the UK and whatnot were. So basically, if you are in Melbourne, you kind of know a bit of the history. So we obviously had a big gold rush in Ballarat. We're quite well, Victoria is quite well known for the gold rush period. And Williamstown, where I kind of grew up, is where they kind of held a lot of the convicts, or a lot of the sentencings would happen. And if they'll send them off to the gold or to other sort of areas. But yeah, the area that I kind of lived in was a lot of sentencings that would happen. And the courthouse that I used to live in, as you can imagine, there was a lot of like, yeah, hangings and terrible things that would happen in there. And then it kind of, yeah, the history kind of moved on to like families and things at the time that took over. Anyway, as a child, I would have been 8 or 7. I can't remember exactly, but I used to basically play with two little boys, obviously consensual, and we'll keep this clean. But there was two little boys that I used to like play with, like toys with, and have kind of conversations with. And I actually thought that they were real. I didn't think there was spirit as such. Like I just thought that they came. So they didn't come sort of every night, or they weren't around all the time, but they were, at least a few days a week. And I always put it down to just, family friends, you know, their mum and my mum were chatting, and they would come in and we'll play, and then they would go home, kind of thing, like normal as a kid. Like you just, you have friends that you kind of play with. And I didn't know any different. I didn't even recognize the fact that like they were dressed in old English attire. They spoke with an old English accent, and like that old Victorian way of speaking, which my mum said that I used to speak that way. So when I was playing with them, my voice and my language would change to that old um, English kind of Victorian accent, or just old English sort of way of speaking, because that's how they spoke, and that's how I kind of, and this went on for months, about a good 6, 7 months. And we finally moved out, and my mum a few weeks later kind of said, "Oh, so by the way, those boys," because she was trying to work out too, because my mum's not psychic or in like I'm actually firstborn, which we can talk about as well tonight if we have time. So I classify myself as firstborn psychic in the family or first generation because I've not in the research that I've done and the investigating that I've done, I've not come across anyone in my past who is spiritual inclined or psychic related. There's just no evidence or no, there's nothing. And I've done extensive research on this. So at this stage, I'm convinced that I am firstborn psychic. So my mum was trying to work out, like, she actually generally thought there was something wrong with me, which is kind of cliche. I think a lot of psychics kind of have that in their past on some level where they think, oh my God, my child's not normal. You're speaking to spirit. And she was just trying to work out if I had a vivid imagination or if I physically saw these people. And she, without me knowing, she actually had a paranormal investigator when we moved out check out the place and do a bit of an investigation. And they sort of described the two little boys and how they passed and the history and things like that. And when my mum asked me, and I had no prior knowledge or influence, I was able to describe it to the exact same detail that she was given. And that's when she realized that I was actually able to see these spirits and communicate with them, which then also made sense for her in other areas when I was able to, like, stupid little things. Like, I would always say to her, oh, the phone's ringing and it's not ringing, but I would hear it ringing. I'm like, oh, the phone's ringing. Why is no one answering it? But the phone physically wasn't ringing, and then it would ring and it would be like an important phone call. So little things like that in my childhood kept happening, but I again just never really put it down to anything. I always just thought, well, everyone can do this. This is normal, like whatever. And then as I kind of went through teenage life, it kind of, disappeared in a way. Like I wasn't as sort of intuitive inclined, but I think when you go through, like, if you're not really, trained or understand your kind of gift, so to speak, you do kind of lose it through your teenage years because you just become a teenager, and you think you know it all anyway when you're a teenager. So everyone's really a psychic at that time. And then it was kind of later towards the end of high school, like year 12, I was really starting to predict things again, and it was starting to happening again, and it felt familiar. So I kind of knew, okay, this is something I've dealt with in the past. I kind of am familiar with this. Still not sure what it was, but just knew that it was a bit more like, okay, I had some form of ability here. And of course, I was really into shows like Charmed and movies like The Craft. So any sort of witchy poo type show or movie, I was really into, and I was able to really resonate. And especially with Charmed, like the Phoebe character who got premonitions. I really resonated with her because I'm like, well, that's what I get. Like I see visions and then they happen. So I kind of was like, okay, well, maybe I get premonitions. I was still trying to work it out, but remember, I grew up in a time where there was no smartphone, there was no Facebook, Google had just like came out. So I didn't have the internet accessible like we do now. So I couldn't just research this. I kind of really had to work this out on my own. And it wasn't until after high school, I probably would have been maybe 21, 22, and I got my first psychic reading, like a proper, I had little like amateur type readings in the past, but I finally went and got a proper psychic reading done, a real detailed one. And this person just, not only was she fantastic in the reading, but really was kind of helpful in a sense of, you've got the gift, and she just explained it to me, and she kind of helped me to understand who I am in a way. She ended up becoming a mentor for me. To this day, I still get readings from her. It's been, yeah, it's been, God, nearly 20 years that I've had this person in my life, and she's been a sort of, she's not so much a mentor now, but definitely still in my life. And for a period there, did really act as a mentor and really did kind of help to sort of educate and help me really understand my gift. And then the rest I kind of just worked out on my own. Once you started doing readings, once you start speaking to other psychics, once you kind of work in the field for a long period of time, like I have, you pick up on things, and you learn, your own way and what works and what doesn't work for you. And you meet beautiful people like Anne Marie, who's in production, who's really taught and helped me quite a lot. I still like I could have a conversation with her tomorrow and learn something new tomorrow. Like it's I think like, you're always learning in that sense. And that's what I've once I removed the ego, being a psychic, and removed, yeah, the ego, and kind of be a bit more vulnerable, it sort of made more sense to me. And you kind of, yeah, you kind of ego can play a big part, because once you get a lot of great feedback, and you get a lot of, like, me doing this live show, and then doing readings and having really positive feedback, all that is really great. I'm not dismissing that. But when you get a lot of that, it can feed your ego, and you can take that in a negative way or respond in a negative way. And there are some psychics out there that unfortunately do kind of take it to that level. And I think you can definitely separate the two. And what I had to learn is, if I was to really progress in this and get respect from clients, and other psychics as well, because it is a very small industry and everyone does talk, you've got to be respectful, but you've got to remove the ego in order to sort of progress here. And that was probably the biggest lesson that I had to learn on my own, and the hard way as well. Yeah, as Beth said, a healthy ego is good. Yeah, a healthy, because at the end of the day, like, good feedback and doing good things is still it's still worth celebrating and still worth talking about. But it's the place you take it to can be quite interesting. Um, yeah, so still learning. I'm 38. I'm still young in that sense. I mean, I have been reading now for over 15 years, and not that a number really makes a difference anyway, because you can have someone who's read for 20 years and be a terrible reader, and someone who's read for 5 minutes and be a fantastic reader. So the message and how you get it, and just how professional, and it comes down to respect, at the end of the day. And yeah, I'm still learning, and I'm not afraid or ashamed to say that. I think a lot of people struggle to be like, no, I know everything, or just, yeah, ego. It's a very interesting topic for a lot of people. But I've learned a lot, and I'm really grateful and happy in just where I'm at. Bell, sorry, has asked, what are your favorite things? What are the favorite things that I like about being psychic? I think being able to help people. I think being able to reach people that, guidance or clarity, or direction, or things like that. In my journey. So during COVID, and well, just before and also during COVID, I went through. I studied to become a counselor, and then I moved. I didn't quite like the counseling side of it, because that's very textbook and very scientific. Then I moved into more like life coaching kind of areas, because I liked the more using tools and using kind of practical stuff that that we everyday kind of tools that we can use to help us through the day, kind of thing. So I found life coaching for me was more my calling, as opposed to direct counseling, although there's a lot of tools there. So with that background, and with that wanting to help people, it kind of incorporates all of it into what I do today. And that's sort of what I love doing, is being able to, I suppose, reach people on a broader scale, like doing a live show like this, and able to reach thousands of people on a weekly basis, who, it may not necessarily be able to get information that they can get freely, or as available. Like in my example, growing up, where, I didn't have a lot of information, I had to do a lot of research and learning, and you know, there was a lot of delays and a lot of confusion and frustration with me, because I had to sort of do it all in my own time, and whatnot. So I would have appreciated, not that we had the technology back then, but knowing that, this information is freely available and readily available for everyone to be able to gain something from. I think that's what motivates me to keep going, is being able to help that, one person who may be confused or questioning things, and might get some clarity by watching a show or getting a reading. And just the community, like the help, like, there are some, with any sort of, I suppose, community or even work sort of environment, there's always going to be like toxic people. You just can't help that. There has to be a good and evil type balance scenario. Positive and negative always has to work. But, you know, the good that's in this sort of community, and the positivity and the support with other psychics, when you do work together and learn from each other, that's also exciting too and quite refreshing. And I really do enjoy that aspect as well. So it's yeah, there's a lot to enjoy. What do you like, Beth? Beth or Beth? No, Belle. Belle. I'm saying Beth and I'm saying Belle, so I'm getting the two confused. Um, you can't wait to discuss this type of thing. Look, next week is going to be like a 2 hour special. It's not, but like, yeah, Anne-Marie's like, I don't think so. Um, yeah, next week, we've got a lot to discuss, Belle. I think you and I definitely tune in next week. It's going to be it's going to be the last show too for the year as well. So it's going to be the last Thursday show because apart from next week, believe this or not, but the next two Thursdays, it's Christmas Day and then it's New Year's Day. So, yeah. Even though there's still like a good 2 weeks left of the year, every Thursday is like I said, after next week, it's then Christmas Day, and then the week after is New Year's Day. So I won't be going live, unfortunately. So next week is the last Thursday show. So definitely don't miss out on that one. Um, Grace has asked, do I collect crystals? Yes, and I sell them as well. I'm not going to plug it because this isn't the forum for that. But yes, I do collect crystals, and I actually have a crystal business as well where I sell my crystals. I work with raw crystals, so I prefer raw crystals than polished stones. For example, here's one I prepared earlier. Oh shit, it's gonna work. So this is an amethyst. So this is a raw amethyst crystal that I use, and as you can see, like that's all dirt. So it's literally it was like this in the earth. They plucked it out, and then this is what they got. And yeah, it's quite like probably can't see it, but it's a bit dirty. Anyway, so this is a raw amethyst cluster that I have. Um, I've also got a raw clear quartz as well that I have and that I also sell these as well. So yes, I have abundance of crystals that I sell, but I prefer raw because it's like anything veggies, meat, like anything raw, the less it's touched, that the healthier it is. So for me, I just prefer the rawness of the crystals. I think there's quite beauty in that. Okay. Whew, I've never done so much talking in my life. Hope you're enjoying this sort of random show. Hope you're learning something. You missed the special guest interview. Well, this is kind of like the personal version of the guest interview, but go back. You should be able to still see the interview that Harry did with me. That was more sort of surface level. So we more talked about the present, the show, and things like that. So tonight's all about going deeper than that. So it's just me. So whatever you want to know, if I have time, because there seems to be quite a few questions, which is fantastic. But this is the night to really get to know me on a deeper level. Um, Liz has also asked, can you also explain to us how spirit talks to you and explain it to us if that's okay? Word smell. Okay, yeah. Um, I get what you're saying though. Our spirit. Yeah, good question. My grandfather, who on my dad's side, who basically was a father to me and raised me as his own almost. He very much talks to me. And he's a very big protector of mine as well. So a lot of my messages come from him. So I hear his voice when I'm getting messages like downloads. I can generally hear his voice. If I don't hear his voice, then it is more just like an internal voice that I hear. But I still know it's coming from him, if that kind of makes sense. But a lot of the time it is but his voice and my voice are very similar. So as I kind of got a bit older before he passed, if you called us on the phone, people couldn't really distinguish between his voice and mine. Like we sounded really, really similar. So his voice, when I do hear it, does sound like mine anyway, just a more huskier kind of older tone. So he's my kind of main guide. And what happens is he speaks to your guide. So your guide will pass on messages to him and then he passes it on to me. And that's generally how I kind of get the messages, so to speak. In regards to sort of feelings, emotions, and visuals, that all comes through my third eye and just my intuitive ability. So I'm an empath. So I'm very sensitive to emotion. So um, Yeah, I when I usually start my readings, I first tune into your energy. So how are you feeling? Are you angry, sad, confused, frustrated? I kind of pick up on what it is that you're actually feeling. Then I get the message to go, okay, you know, I might be getting confused and frustrated energy coming from you directly in front of me. But then the message I'm getting in my left ear, because my girlfriend always stands to the left of me, would be like questioning work or needing to change in work or work or something like that. So then because I'm feeling that frustration and that confusion, I straight away will go, okay, you want to change careers or you're confused about your work. You're feeling a bit frustrated with your work at the moment. What's going on there? So that's kind of how I sort of do my readings is I get the energy emotion from you directly and then I get the messages and then I kind of like a jigsaw puzzle kind of put it all together to go, okay, this is what I feel like is happening. Same when you kind of give me information or ask me kind of questions, it all comes down to energy. So a lot of my clients sometimes struggle to sort of understand in a way because I don't work like I work on energy. So for me it's the emotion of it, it's the feeling. And sometimes the feeling or the emotion or the energy can be confusing in a way. So, especially like for example, I might be getting like a real masculine energy, but the person could be a female but they come across very masculine and very male orientated. So that's where it can get confusing sometimes because it's energy and energy doesn't necessarily give you descriptions straight away. It's just, okay, I'm getting a lot of heavy masculine energy. But then as I'm describing the person or describing the situation, you might go, well, that person's actually a female. I go, okay, but she probably has more masculine energy. And that's where there can be confusion in that sense. And like I said, it is just like jigsaw puzzle pieces and trying to put it all together to get to that sort of bigger picture. And that's kind of how my readings come very often, like not very often, very unoften, if that's even a word I just made up. But every now and then, like I will get like a smell or a taste. That's if it's like quite intense, or if I'm like in a location, I'm doing a reading at a location, I might smell like yeah, perfume or burning flesh, which happened recently. Someone died in a car crash. I could smell the burning flesh. Very rare that happens, but it can happen like that. But for me, it's mainly just sight and hear, and then just feelings that I get as well. But it's all energy for me. So I work on energy, and everything around us is energy based. So um, yeah, it's all energy for me, and that's how I um, generally read. Hi, Lisa. Good to see you. I need to do your show. Hang on, what? Use your words, Beth. What are you saying? I need to do your show. So much happening at the moment. Yes, I'm just going to say yes to that. Sure. There's no more Thursday shows left. Bell is on next week, and then it's another 2 weeks off. So, but definitely in the new year, we could probably work something out. I should probably let you know who's online. So if you actually do want a psychic read, well, Beth, if you're chatting, you must be off a call now. Yes, you are. You were on a call before. But if you go to psychictvinternational.com or psychictvaustralia.com, you can get a reading with one of our psychics. Amazing Grace is currently available on pin 9888. Beth, who was on a call, is now available on 9150. Our UK psychic Jag on 9160 and Judith Sky on pin 9125. Makeda on pin 9133. And also available is Natalie Norman Baker on pin 9810. But the party is here. Um, I can't say it here, fortunately, but I can private message you, Lisa. It's near your area, actually. But yeah, this isn't the platform for me to plug. If it was my private show, I could, but this is a psychic TV show. So we've got to keep it within the brand. But I'm happy to tell you privately. Manifestation advice. It's me, Namara. Let's go do a whole. It's me, Mario. Manifestation advice. That look, I am probably not the 100% best person to ask. I will be absolutely honest. I struggle at manifestation the best of times. Um, My advice would be just be careful what you wish for and make it clear. So basically, manifestation, the spirit of the universe are quite very black and white and quite clear. They don't kind of read the shadows in betweens, the different colors. If you want something to happen, be direct, be precise, and be clear. Don't kind of, if you're asking for something, don't go on a whole tangent. Oh, I would like this because, if it happened like this, and then it's like, no, no. I I can't even think of an example now. Like, say you want a new job, be like, I can't even think. I honestly, I'm worse at manifestation. All I know from my experience is be clear, be direct, and use as little wording as possible. Like, for example, I want a job that's going to fulfill me financially. It's probably not even the best example, but it's like, because yeah, actually, it's not, because then you could just get any job that maybe you don't want the job, but that job will provide financially for you because that's what you've asked for. So that's probably like a good example. Did actually give me an example? Be specific, yeah. Be specific, but also be clear because, for example, the one I just gave you, like, I want a job that's going to fulfill me financially. You'll probably get a job that will definitely fulfill you financially, but you might hate the job because it's not the job you wanted. So I think you've got to be clear in, like, I want a creative job or something. Yeah, look, honestly, I'm not the best person when it comes to, I seek help when I'm trying to manifest, so I make sure that I do get it clear. But all I know is just be specific and don't go onto this whole tangent when like, don't explain to the universe what it is you want. Just go tell the universe what is it you want. Just tell them. They're very black and white, but yeah, but just, you don't want to overcomplicate it or confuse it. That's the tricky part. But vision boards are really good. Like, if you're, say, wanting to, okay, here's probably a good manifestation example. Say you want to move home, visualize what it is, the kind of home that you want. Is it by the coast? Is it in the country? Is it in the city? Is it a 2 bedroom, 3 bedroom? Get, like, if you can actually get pictures, put them up every day, or say maybe you found a listing. Maybe you were on one of the real estate websites and you found this home that's available for rent or to buy, and you're like, I want that house, or I'm going to buy that house. Then visualize you living in that house. Same with a job. If you've gone for a job interview and you really want that job, visualize yourself already working in that job. Already schedule your calendar as if you're already working in that job. That you may, not it there's doesn't necessarily mean that you're guaranteed that it's going to work and you will get that job, but it definitely helps in that process. If you visualize yourself already working for that company and the uniform you're wearing, and just, even though you're physically not there, but you just see it as that will help in the manifestation. If there's a car that you want, print it out, put it up, and look at it and go, I'm going to get that car one day, and you will. Do what works for you, but just keep it very specific. Don't add too many colors and layers because that confuses the universe, because they're like, well, we don't know exactly what you want. But if you just want, I want a silver BMW with 2 doors and it's a convertible, and you put that picture up, then you keep looking at that, then you'll get that car, because that's quite clear. Hope that kind of makes sense. But honestly, I'm not the best person. Um, Damn phone, I would love to do your show. You you love that you are. I'd love to do you are show. Sorry, I'm making fun, Beth. I apologize. Um, Interesting question, Diane. Would like to know, can people have demons on them? We've spoken about this in the past with other psychics who have different views. Some psychics don't believe in demons. I'm not sure if I personally believe in demons myself. I believe in don't my mouth's trying to work here. Um, nah, and you're only trying to think of a word to say, and you just can't say it even more. Yeah, I'm not even going to attempt it. Let's just call it negative energy. I do believe in negative energy, and I believe that someone like, there are criminals out there are murderers out there, you know, they've got bad intentions. Yes, there's, scientifically you can talk about mental behavior, which is why I studied counseling, because I wanted to know a little bit more about mental behavior and just behavioral science in that sense. We still don't always know what triggers people, but it's usually because of the past and something going on there. But you could argue that maybe there's evil kind of entity or intentions, as well, that spiritually has intervened and has created this as well. So I do believe there is positive and negative, good and evil. That's just how the world works. You can't just have a one side. There's always two sides to everything, good and evil, positive, negative, all of that. So I believe in that. Um, is it demon related? I don't know, because I don't believe in hell and heaven. I don't believe in God and the devil. So I don't believe in sort of the demonology side of things as well. But definitely, there's definitely evil energy, and that could be from past lives, life lessons that needed to be learned, karmic debt, things like that. Um, so yeah, because I believe that we wouldn't do bad intentions or do bad things if we weren't influenced on some level. What's production tonality? There is dark and there is light. That's life. Negative worlds, negative words directed can cause negative energy. Yeah. So I think as a world, we do have positive and negative energy. That's how the balance is. If we're all positive, we'll probably all kill each other anyway, because we'll just all be too positive. Like, it's too much. We need that balance. We need to know right from wrong. That's just the balance of the world. Some people might live more in the wrong and more in the negative, and there's probably mental health influences, spiritual influences, past life influences, a whole umbrella of stuff there. Um, and then it's tapping into it. Once you kind of tap into that sort of evil negativity, it really becomes intoxicating. And evil likes to win. Fear loves to win. That's why I always say stop feeding the fear. Like, if you yeah, are fearful of something, fear wants you to feed it more because it grows on that. But if you feed it positivity, or like you probably would have heard the saying, kill them with kindness, you know. So there's always that balance there. So can people have demons on them? No, that's just my personal opinion. But can people have negative or evil influences or intentions? Definitely. Where that comes from, I don't know, because like I said, it could be mental health related, or it could be more sort of spiritual related, or even both. There's definitely, and look, unfortunately, some people can't be helped or fixed either. Some people are so mentally unstable that it doesn't matter how much, help they are offered, they're just mentally challenged in that sense. And I find that so fascinating too. The human brain is so powerful. Uh, but yeah, I hope that kind of answers the question. There's really not much more to elaborate on that one. Um, what do we all think? No doubt. Demonic behavior. That's what I was trying to say and I couldn't say. Demonic. Thank you, Beth. I do believe in demonic behavior. I just don't think it's demon related. But that's just me. I just believe it's more just sort of evil or bad intentions, which people have. Some people see you next Tuesdays. Um, what else have we got question wise? Hi, Melissa from New Zealand. Good to see some YouTube people tonight. There's quite a few of you, which is fantastic. We know that works. Tash has said, I get readings yearly for spiritual guidance and clarity. Look, and I got this question the other day from one of my clients saying, how often should I get a reading? And I said, look, is there a rule? I always say, give it the time frame that you've been given. So if I've given you a 3 month or a 6 month time frame, try and see it out before getting another reading. However, with free will, things change all the time. So say I said to you, oh, give it 6 months, blah, blah, blah. But in 4 months, your whole life has just uprooted and changed. And you feel like, okay, what the hell here? Then yeah, maybe if it feels right, I've got people that read with me weekly because it's a cheaper counseling service for them. There's no set rule. I always just say if you feel drawn and you feel like you truly need a reading, sure, have one. But if it's just because you just can't make a decision, and yeah, like, and again, I'm not ruling that out. If you really feel like you just need someone to help give you clarity and a psychic is going to do that and you want to pay the price, go for it. You're paying the money at the end of the day. There's no refunds. I just think, when you're ready because you just feel it. It's just all over. Like you just feel it and you need one. Yeah. That's probably the best advice on that. You say the same. Welcome. Yes, I say this. What is it that yeah. What is it that you say the same to? Oh, I'm losing my voice already. I've never spoken so much. It's hilarious. Okay. Hi to everyone that's watching. It's good to have your company. I have been unwell and I missed coming live, even though like I say, oh, I'm gonna whatever. I do miss it. Like when I'm here and I'm chatting to you guys, it's fulfilling. Oh, this is a very detailed question. Kayana, is that how you say your name? When it comes to mental health, like say schizophrenia and the likes, what are the best ways to tell them apart? Or could schizophrenia be more uncontrolled form of psychic abilities that can be harmful? Look, I don't know if I fully understand your question. Look, I'm not a psychologist. I don't work in hypnotherapy or anything like that. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a nurse. So I couldn't really sort of help you in that sort of answer in that sense. Um, what are the best ways to tell them apart? What are the best ways to tell them apart? Or could schizophrenia? So you're talking when you say what's the best way to tell them apart? What exactly are you trying to tell apart? Schizophrenia and what else? Or are you talking about mental health? Because schizophrenia is part of mental health. So when you say, I suppose, what are the best ways to tell them apart? My question to you is, what are you trying to tell apart? That's the part I'm trying to understand, if that makes sense. Um, is schizophrenia a uncontrolled form of psychic abilities? Look, I definitely feel like schizophrenia is definitely a third sort of energy, and I've seen and actually, sorry, I'm losing my voice here. I've definitely have done research, kind of off topic here, but I've got a film background and I'm a writer, and one of my scripts that I'm in development with at the moment is a mental health based in a psychiatric ward. So, as part of my research, I had the privilege of actually, well, I don't know if you'd call it privilege once you get the experience, but I actually went to a psychiatric ward and actually spent the day just studying and observing um, people in that field, and there was quite a few psychiatric or schizophrenia people in there, and there were some recordings that I was able to have some access to, and there are some obviously available online that you can get as well. And when you listen to them talk, and the whole personas change, the voices change, even if some physical characters change, when you physically see that, it's quite confronting, but also for me, I found it quite fascinating that this could actually happen. So but yeah, again, I'm not in that field to really, like, I'm not an expert in that field to really confirm this, but on a spiritual level, like when these people who suffer from schizophrenia and turn into, I suppose, their other character, I don't know what the correct like medical term would be, but they're they're still living and breathing and still thinking as if this is real, this is the present, this is happening. So, you know, there is some sort of belief in what they're saying, whatever they're saying or whatever they're thinking or seeing, they're believing that to be true, whether that's psychic related or what. You know, so Protection has said that schizophrenia delusions are usually of a religious or you've used words that I don't know how to pronounce, um, different to receiving psychic messages. Yeah, so it is separate. Like they're not. It's not quite yeah the same. There's definitely a separation between the two. Um, who's that? Brie has said. I think she means can schizophrenia behaviors be confused for psychic abilities that have not been developed or understood properly? Look, I don't know. That's the answer. I don't know because I'm not trained in that field. Yes, maybe on some level, um, but I do feel like it's more chemical imbalance and a more sort of medical condition as opposed to a spiritual kind of gift in a sense. But then, some would argue that maybe people who do suffer from schizophrenia give messages that are quite strong and powerful that could be psychic related. But I don't, yeah, I'm going to say probably no. But again, I'm just not formally trained. I am seriously like too much talking. Um, oh, you did rewrite your question. When it comes to mental health, like schizophrenia, etc., what are the best ways to tell them apart from psychic abilities? Or could it be that the person is experiencing psychic abilities that are uncontrolled or too intense and they are more risk of themselves? Can't remember what. Yeah, you know what? And potentially there's definitely going to be some truth in that. I do believe, like, because I've seen mental health conditions and I've seen people, and like when they're going through an episode, they believe it's real whether it's I don't know, I wouldn't say it's psychic abilities as such, but they're definitely on another plane. And yes, it's mental health, and yes, medical people will argue one way, but you kind of got to look at it from both angles and go, well, maybe there is something there. Maybe there is some truth in what they're saying because they are tapping into another dimension there that maybe they are predicting something, but I wouldn't call them psychics or but definitely there are some mental health conditions like empaths, for example. Like if you can't control your emotions, if you're an empath and you've got this gift and you really can't handle all that emotion, it can kind of make you go a bit loopy emotionally because if you're taking all this emotion, you don't know how to control it, you don't know where it's coming from. That can be for some people, and some gifts and abilities that are given to us can drive us down a mental health kind of path because we don't know how to handle it or we don't have the support. So I do believe there are definitely two sides to this. I'm just not the right sort of person or expert to really go into detail about it, but I'm sure that maybe in the future we could have a conversation about this. I would love to get an actual expert in the field on the show. Actually, maybe I might look into that and see if we can get like a doctor or a psychologist or someone just to get the more scientific version as opposed to spiritual. I think that might be quite interesting. I was thinking, so I do apologize for the coughing. I am getting over quite a heavy cold. Um, I was thinking of 12 Monkeys, Andrew. That was that the Brad Pitt film. Um, and there's also another film, Gothica, which is a really good film, Halle Berry. If you haven't seen Gothica, go check that out. I think I actually like Gothica more than 12 Monkeys, although I think they both really have explored the narrative quite well. But Gothica was really, really well done. So definitely go check that one out. Um, we're all kind of confused. Like really, this has not been developed or understood properly. And yeah, I don't think it has. I don't think it fully has. You've said you find the crossovers interesting, like the medium psychic mediums we hear, smell, feel, sometimes see. Oh, you just come through. Then there's schizophrenia, where hearing, seeing things that aren't there as well, but they believe it to be there. That's the thing. Like, well, I mean, you know, um, oh my god, I do apologize for the coughing. Yeah, look, I don't. Again, not a medical field. I need to stress that from schizophrenia. At least I don't think so. The voices in my head say no, so that's a good sign. But I do sort of feel when someone's having a schizophrenia episode, because I believe that's what they're called, like their episodes. When they're in that moment, I'm pretty sure they believe it's real. They believe it's happening. So yeah, like if they believe it's real and what they see and hear and what they're saying is real, then how do you explain that? Like, is that just mental health and the chemical imbalance in the brain, or is that spiritual on some level? Like, are they? Yeah, like you've sparked. We'll try using our words. You've sparked my interest in that. Like, I actually would love if I can. I'm going to try in the new year for you guys to get someone in the field. If I can get like a psychologist or a mental health professional on the show, I think that would be great. Just to really or the scientific version as opposed to the spiritual version, because I think it's quite an interesting conversation. But I'm liking this kind of theory of schizophrenia and where does the mental health stop and the spiritual side start, and both. Anyway, would you be interested in a show like that? Let me know if you would like. If I was able to bring someone on like that. Okay, I think I'm gonna wrap up because I'm literally like going to go into a massive coughing fit here, and trust me, for your own ears, you don't want to hear that. So I'm gonna wrap up a bit early tonight, but thank you for your time. Again, if you want to get a reading, you can go to psychictvaustralia.com or psychictvinternational.com, and currently available, we have the same psychic. So Mason Grace on pin 9888. Beth, who's in the thread, who was on a call earlier, she's available on pin 9150. Beth tends to get, when she's logged on, gets called up. So if you want to have a chat with Beth tonight, you can while she's still online. Of course, Jag, our UK psychic, on 9160, Judith Sky on 9125, Makita on 9133, and Eleanor Baker on pin 9810. Yes, you all would like to. Yeah, I'll try and get a medical. I'll get someone. I'll surprise you. I'll surprise you. Just stay tuned in. Just keep watching. We've got Belle. I get Belle and Beth confused so much. You guys need to like change your names or something. Belle is on next week. So next week I've got Belle. She did a Saturday show with Harry not too long ago. It was really great on that show. So this will be her first formal interview. Belle's got a lot to talk about. It will be our last Thursday show for the year as well. So if you can put into your diaries, I'll be back 8 o'clock Australian Eastern Daylight Savings Time next Saturday, next Thursday at 8 o'clock. Of course, you can watch Harry this Saturday. I believe it's Terry that's on. Yes, production's nodding. So Terry is on this Saturday with Harry T. So you get your free mini readings with Harry this Saturday with Terry as a guest psychic. I'll be back next week with Belle. Thank you to everyone that's watched tonight. Enjoy your week, and I hope tonight was somewhat informative for you all. Enjoy your weekend, and I'll see you next week.